His campaign has attracted such strong support from across our movement. Michael is rooted in Labour values. Michael's committed to bringing people together, and he has the ability to unite our party so that we can change Scotland for the better. Michael also brings extensive experience from outside politics that has shaped those values. From working from Oxfam tackling poverty at home and abroad, to founding a child poverty charity and spending a decade working in higher education. I believe he has the vision, values and leadership needed for the challenges ahead, and I'm looking forward to hearing him set out his case this morning. Can you please all join me in giving a very warm Dundee and Glasgow welcome to the next leader of the Scottish Labour Party, Michael Marra.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here today. Thank you to you, Tracy, for coming through today to Glasgow. It's nice to have you here, but it's not as exciting as the trip you're making next week for the scan for the baby, for your first grandchild. So I know how excited you are about that. But thanks for being with us today. And thank you to all of you for that very warm welcome for myself. It's been a while since I've been in this room. I think it was 15 years ago, this is the last time I was in here, and I was watching my uncle perform as he was a singer-songwriter playing on that piano. No singing from me today, though I can absolutely assure you, a different Michael Marra. I'm the one who's running to lead the Scottish Labour Party. I'm putting myself forward not for a job, though there is work to be done, and I'm not standing for a title, though I do believe that the leader should be a more central figure in our national life. I'm standing to lead a moral cause. When we talk about Labour values, we are often abstract. We use language of a university tutorial room, and I've been in quite a few of those over the years, but those are not the rooms where my values come from. Those values start in one small room in Lochee in Dundee. They start with my grandmother, Margaret. She was one of 7 children who slept in that room, 1 bed for the girls, another for the boys. Of those 7 kids, she was the one chosen to go to college. The other 6 siblings would stay working in the heat and the stench of the jute mills, at least 6 days a week. And when that week was done, they would take down an old flour tin and put in a share of their very hard-earned wages to pay the cost of Margaret's keep and her education. I am forever grateful for that, because their sacrifice and that opportunity changed her life, and her education changed mine. That's what Labour politics means to me. It means hope. A promise of a better life, and that hope, that promise, is what we need to return to offering all of our people. That is the Labour who offers that promise for them, their children and their grandchildren after that. It's a simple idea that by acting together we can give people opportunities that would otherwise be denied to them. The values my mum and dad taught me were straightforward. Dream big, work hard, play by the rules, but never pass by on the other side when someone needs your help. Those are Scottish values, and they are Labour values. They took me from studying in this city at the University of Glasgow and at the London School of Economics to working on anti-poverty programmes for Oxfam in Scotland and in Africa, to founding a charity focused on tackling child poverty, working in higher education, serving as a councillor in my beloved home city of Dundee, and for the last 5 years representing North East Scotland in our Parliament. My career has been based on what my parents and my wider family taught me. That values aren't something that you think or feel, they're something that you actually do. Values that are truly and deeply felt, call you to action. And it's that in that action that an intellectual critique of the failings of a society an economy, or of a government becomes a moral cause. The urgency of our cause is why I refuse to spend the next 5 years simply doing what we did for the last 5, 10, 15 years, repeating the same mistakes, sniping from the sidelines, and describing problems that everybody in Scotland can already see. So if you want just more of the same, count me out. But I don't believe that you want more of the same. Like me, you all know that we have to change. So instead, I am stepping forward to lead the change. Now, this might be my first time doing this, but many of you in this room could be forgiving for thinking, here we go again. Another Scottish leadership election. In May, we went backwards in seats and votes at Holyrood for the 6th time in a row. It was heartbreaking, it was devastating, but it wasn't surprising. The decline of Labour politics in Scotland is bigger than any one election campaign or any one leader. In England in May, Labour was beaten by insurgent populists because a UK leadership had lost contact with the country. But here in Scotland, our defeat was much, much worse. We lost to a worn-out SNP government, while the poisonous populism of reform snapped at our heels and in many regions beat us. People in this room and across our movement worked incredibly hard. Candidates put their lives on hold. I see a few of them in the room today. Staff worked every hour available. Members knocked doors through the wind and rain because they believed Scotland should and could choose something better. But we felt it on the doors just as we saw it in the opinion polls. People looked at all the main parties and found us all wanting. Reform channeled that anger while offering easy enemies instead of serious answers. And yes, there was anger focused at Keir Starmer, but we need to be honest with ourselves. A Scottish Labour Party with stronger roots, a clearer identity and greater political authority could have limited the damage. Dissatisfaction with Keir Starmer was a storm for which Scottish Labour Party had failed to make itself weatherproof. That hurts, but if we are serious about recovery, we have to face up to it. There is no silver bullet, no silver bullet. Our problem is not just a leader or our rule book, the organisation, the message or the policies. It's all of those things interacting with each other. It is systemic. Devolution created a new national political arena and Scotland changed. Work changed, communities changed, old loyalties weakened, Scotland's understanding of itself changed. But we didn't. Scottish Labour kept going round in a same old loop. I think it's a little bit like the Glasgow Underground, which some of you probably travelled on here today. The Underground loop joins up the industrial city of 1896. The shipyards, factories, railway stations, the tightly bound working communities that existed then, but not today in 2026. Glasgow has changed and evolved, but the underground route remains the same. The driver changes, the carriages get painted, new posters appear on the platforms, but the same tracks take us through the same stations and back to the place where we started, built for a different time and a different place. That is what has happened to Scottish Labour. Scotland has changed, the people have moved, new communities have grown up, old ones have faded away. But the tracks Labour operates on stay the same. Our structures, rituals and our assumptions are still the same, built for the Scotland where our party first prospered. We need to change. We need to reroute ourselves and move to where the country is now, not where it used to be. My friend Davy Hamilton, the former miners leader and MP for Midlothian, put it perfectly to me, saying about the NUM, Michael, when we had 400,000 members, we had politics. When you've got 10,000 members, you've got personalities. As Labour shrank, our world narrowed. The same people carried more responsibility. We listened to familiar voices. Internal disagreements occupied more of our attention. We became cautious when the country needed courage. We have to change what we do. Change where we spend our time. Change who gets into the room. Change whose knowledge counts. Change how decisions are made. Change whether people ever hear from us after we have asked them their views. Different actions create different relationships. Different relationships create a different culture, and a different culture can produce different results. Every candidate in every one of the last 8 leadership elections talks about listening, reconnecting people and place. And they've all been right. But evidence shows it's much easier to say than it is to do. Our anger at what the SNP has done to this country is genuine, but to the citizens of our country, it's appeared that we were more angry that the SNP took our jobs than we were at the pain they had to bear as a result of the SNP's failures. Our politics has to start and it has to finish with people. Rather than reaching simply for the political attack line, we should be convening all those who have been failed, building movements and alliances, forcing the change that the SNP's lethargy holds back. Under my leadership, Scottish Labour will practice politics with the doors open. We will make a new commitment to the people of Scotland. You tell us what matters in your lives and communities, we will listen, involve you and turn what we hear into action and report honestly on what we have delivered. We will start straight away. In the first months of my leadership, I'll begin to take Labour into every Scottish parliamentary region. We will hold open assemblies that bring together local people, workers, community organisations, businesses and public servants. We will all ask what matters in their lives and places. Then we will do something too rare in politics. We will publish what Scotland told us. Select issues raised by citizens for formal parliamentary action and report honestly on what we achieve. We will create a public record, heard, acted on, delivered, an honest explanation of what stopped us, if anything has. Our councillors will be central to that work. They're not simply the people who administer local government or mobilise at election time. They are Labour's community champions, rooted in their places, spotting problems early and joining local knowledge to national action. And I look with genuine excitement at the new Scottish Labour group in Holyrood. I want to lead that group of people. They are people who have led organisations, served communities, taught children, defended workers, built businesses and campaigned for justice. They bring new energy to come alongside hard-won parliamentary experience. I know the Parliament, its procedures and its people, but more importantly, I know how to use it to make change happen. I've spent 5 years turning campaigning pressure into practical results, fighting for the LGML inquiry, securing life-changing surgery for women, failed by the NHS, acting on the crisis at the University of Dundee, helping people gain access to their pensions, protecting jobs and expanding opportunities for children. Experience matters because Scotland cannot afford an opposition that has to learn from scratch. The SNP has created a financial black hole, and the next 5 years are going to be tough for hard-working people as John Swinney tries to sort out the mess that he has made. Our members and trade union colleagues are rightly worried that hard-working Scots are going to pay the price for 2 decades of SNP mismanagement. The next leader must be ready from the first morning to unite a diverse team to rise to the challenge of holding that government to account, but turning ideas into results. And that requires unity. With our MSPs, our Labour MPs and our councillors across Scotland, the ingredients are already there to rebuild our party across Scotland. We must join ourselves up and work as one Scottish Labour team. Westminster, Holyrood, local government, our trade union colleagues, rooted in every community and focused on the same national purpose. Our strength will come from making room for every part of our movement and bringing all of our talents to the same task. We need never think alike on everything. We need never think alike on everything. But we can act as one team, debating honestly, ending anonymous briefings and making our politics about the country's future rather than the party's personalities. Because our party has shrunk, so too has our politics. We have become small when the challenges we face demand that we be big. Climate change, demographic change, technological change, all will inevitably upend our society, and to all three the Scottish Government is woefully blind. And even in the short run, potentially £5 billion worth of SNP cuts by 2030, a legal target for child poverty set to be missed by a mile, public services creaking with demand, good industrial jobs sent abroad as good Scottish workers are sent to the dole queue, a crisis of youth unemployment, economic growth lagging behind the cost of living that is hitting everyone in their pocket. We cannot wait until 2031 while we change our culture and our own politics, hoping that finally people will be willing to give us a chance then. We have to show what we mean through our actions. We can't just say the SNP is getting it wrong. We need to show where we will get it right. So over this campaign, I've set out some ideas of how that could work. I want to make education a central part of our national political debate again, and look at how we make the entirety of the system fit for our children's tomorrows. I'm proposing a cross-party commission, like the 2014 Smith Commission, to develop and enact a set of proposals that Parliament can pass to halve child poverty by 2030. We can't wait until 2031 to deliver change. Those kids can't wait until 2031 for us to deliver change. So here's another idea. We have a national public health crisis in alcohol and drugs. That impact has been especially profound in my home city of Dundee and in this city of Glasgow. And we've all seen the headlines of recent weeks and the TV coverage that only reflect what I think is bewilderment of communities who watch daily chaos and decline. And we know that Scotland's record is among the worst in the developed world. Urgent additional resource into the system is needed. It won't fix the problem completely, but it will help. 8 years ago, minimum unit pricing came into effect in Scotland. The policy has meant a windfall of tens of millions of pounds in extra revenue a year for supermarkets in Scotland. I'm proposing we claw that money back and spend it on alcohol and treatment services. Even a Conservative estimate suggests that could mean an additional £50 million a year. Almost £250 million across this parliamentary term invested in drugs and alcohol services funded by big business over the course of this Parliament. If the SNP bring those proposals forward, the Scottish Labour Party I lead will support it. Now, Donald Dewar described the Scottish Parliament as not a means to an end, but a means to a greater end. Those greater ends were social justice, the eradication of poverty in our society, good work, good housing, good public services, the good life for working people, not struggling for a holiday once a year or a pint once a week. An economy where everyone has a fair chance in life, which redistributes power, wealth and opportunity. That means asking the wealthiest and the big corporations to pay their fair share. And it means ending Holyrood's culture of centralisation, where money and control are hoarded in Edinburgh while communities go without. Under my leadership, Scottish Labour will seek more devolution, both in our party and in our country. More power and money should go to Scotland's regions to foster economic growth and fairer communities. That should start now, not in 2031. So I want to see a new generation of devolution deals for Scotland's regions. I will make the case for them directly to Downing Street and to Bute House. The Scottish Labour leader is in a unique position to broker these deals between the UK Labour government and the Scottish Government. I can have an honest and direct conversation with Andy Burnham and John Swinney about what power and money they need to give up to deliver the devolution our local regions need. I'm not beholden to either government. I just want the best deal for Scotland. There are a range of areas we need to see Westminster and Holyrood work together to deliver the outcomes Scotland needs. On clean energy, on youth unemployment, both governments have policy responsibilities to deliver the change Scotland needs to see. I want to see those results and national priorities rise above petty politics. I am the candidate who can deliver now for Scotland. And by delivering for Scotland, we can start to prove our case. So that's a Scottish Labour offer to the people of Scotland that is for something, not just against something. For our hearts, the moral crusade for social justice, cutting poverty through work, housing and the welfare state. For our heads, the best deal for a stronger Scotland in a changing UK. I know our party. I know its strengths, and I understand the frustration that exists within it. I believe I can bring it together, not around me, but around the task that is in front of us. I'm honoured to have the support of the most MPs, MSPs, CLPs and affiliates, as well as the NUM, ASLEF and community from our trade unions. But whoever you nominated, whatever your brand or stripe, there is a place for all Labour people in a party of which I am the leader. Because I don't believe that leadership in reality is ever a job for one person. It's for all of us. It's about giving people confidence in the direction we are travelling and bringing the whole movement with you. I am offering the skills, the experience and the character to lead us on the road to recovery with seriousness, unity and with hope. I'm standing because I believe that Scottish Labour can, once again, be the great force for change in this country, rooted in every place, confident in our values and capable of earning Scotland's trust. I'm not standing to manage decline or simply to describe Scotland's problems. I'm standing to change our party so that together we can change our country. If generations of a family can be changed by the love and sacrifice of brothers and sisters in one small room in Dundee, the determination in this room can change the course of a movement replete with talents, courage and strong, strong hearts. We can renew our party, rediscover our moral purpose and build a better, more equal nation that we can leave as a legacy for our children. That's why I'm running to be the next leader of the Scottish Labour Party. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for that very kind response and thank you again for being here today. We have some questions from our colleagues in the press. I think, can I first go to Rachel from the Press Association, please?
Hi there. I'm just going to ask you, are voters actually willing to hear what Labour have to say in Scotland anymore, given that they've shed votes in every Holyrood election since devolution?
Sorry, I missed the first part of that, Rachel. Could you repeat?
Are voters actually willing to hear what Labour have to say in Scotland anymore, given that they've shed votes in every Holyrood election since devolution?
So the result in May would tell us that an awful lot of people haven't been willing, Rachel, and we have to be honest about that. We have to be honest about the scale of the challenge that's in front of us. We have gone backwards at 6 elections in a row, so there's a lot of things to talk about what happened in May, the campaign we run, the mistakes that we made, and we have to do that. We have to do that honestly amongst ourselves as a party and answer the questions of it. But we also have to see the size of this challenge. We have gone backwards 6 elections in a row, and we have to re-find our moral purpose. We have to re-find our position, and we have to reroute ourselves in the communities which founded us across the whole of the country. I believe that is a huge task. There's no doubt about that. But I believe fundamentally, and with all of my heart, that the Scottish Labour Party remains the best vehicle for social change in this country. And I can see that in the stasis we have in Scotland, the decline in our public services, the decline in our economy, the state of our streets, the opportunities that are missed for young people of a better chance in their lives. We're still the vital vehicle that can make that change. And we have to rise to the task because nobody else is going to do it. Thank you. Can we have Paul from the Daily Record, please?
Two questions. At the last UK Labour conference, you famously told Andy Burnham to shut up. I was just wondering, with the benefit of hindsight, if you regret those comments. And secondly, if you do win next month, will you consider Andy Burnham to be your boss?
No. Certainly the boss of me will be the members of the Scottish Labour Party who elect me and the people to whom I'm accountable. And beyond that, the people of Scotland who I seek the role to serve. That's absolutely critical. Do I regret saying to Andy to shut up? No, I don't. I think that I said that from a place of frustration. That I felt in a lot of the discussion that was ongoing around the UK leadership at the time, that this was a question of where Scotland was being ignored. And the vital election that we had ahead of us in 2026 looked potentially like it could be sacrificed for another discussion going on elsewhere. And that's just not something I'll stand for. And I'll continue to make the case to Andy, to anybody else in the UK cabinet, that the interests of Scotland for me come first. First, every time. And I'll be the person, as I set out in this speech today, who is able to tell that truth to power, to talk to whether it be the government in Edinburgh or the government in London about what the people of Scotland need. And that's what the people of Scotland will always have from me. Thank you. Andrew, from the Herald.
Thanks, Michael. I'll ask you the same question I asked Joe Fagan last week. You've now got 9 months until the local council elections. You know, given the difficulties you've mentioned with the party's structures, given the disconnect between the campaign on the ground and what's going on in Party HQ, which you've spoken about before, do you think you can get Scottish Labour in a place where they are competitive next May? And following on from that, will you ditch Anna Sawar's no pacts, no deals, no coalitions, so you can have community champions, as you call them, you know, in power in Scotland, even if that means having to do deals with the Lib Dems, the Greens, the SNP, the Tories, Reform?
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Andrew. I mean, I think we have to recognise that politics in Scotland has changed. And a lot of what I've just set out today is the fact that for too long we've not recognised that. We have to see where we are in the political firmament in Scotland, how at times we have become marginal in terms of the number of seats that we have in Holyrood and the challenge that that presents. We also know that essentially those elections next year are going to be 6-party politics being projected into 4- and 3-member wards. And that makes it very difficult, I think, for all of the traditional main parties, that things are going to become more fractured. So I believe, I've said this already, that we have to be open to make sure that we can do deals to deliver as best as possible for the people of Scotland and for the communities that we seek to serve. So I'll work with local authorities to make that happen, but not with reform. Absolutely clear that we can't. And I think that the reform side of this is incredibly dangerous for the country. They are a gateway to something much darker. Now, there are people who may have voted Labour in the past who voted Reform in May, and we have to persuade those people that better outcomes for their young people, for the future of their communities, doesn't lie with that far-right populism that is being peddled. That we have to win that argument and try and persuade people back, that the easy enemies that they identify are no substitute for proper answers. But we have to make sure that we do not enable that politics in any way. So I can say that we are open to discussions with other parties, and we should be. We have to recognise the political arithmetic as to where it is and make sure that we put in place Labour values, Labour policies wherever we can, but not at the cost of working with people who, frankly, I think challenge the very soul of the country that we seek to represent. Okay, David from the Scotsman.
Thanks, Michael. Just on your devolution plans, can I ask what specific powers you'd like to see devolved from Westminster to the regions, and whether that is directly to councils, or you would like to see local government reorganised to better use those powers? And secondly, do you think that's going to be enough to combat the independence vote? We've seen repeatedly Labour take a hard line on independence, and it's not been effective at the ballot box. What were you going to do differently that your many predecessors have tried and failed?
Sure. Thanks, David. I think there's lots of things that could be devolved locally where powers can work. Let me give you an example. I think issues around skills and employability are ripe for change. It's actually what happens in other parts of Europe, where instead of having national priorities about the number of the areas of skills, that in parts, whether it be in Switzerland or Germany, they set regional approaches where they understand what the shape of the economy they want to build is, and they build growth through having the proper partnership between skills and investment. So the investment can come from Westminster to make that happen, if there's a finance that's available. And the Scottish Government, I think, has to be open to saying that we're going to allow different regions to actually create those opportunities. I visited Fife College just in the last few days, and we're talking about just those opportunities for the Fife economy that could come if we actually shaped the offer in those areas and did that specifically. At the moment, they're hamstrung by a government that won't give direction nationally and fails to actually provide freedom locally. And actually, that is a significant change that could begin to change outcomes for people across Scotland. And I think it's an example of the answer to your second question. If we ask people at the moment whether they favour the status quo or independence, it's basically 50-50. And I don't think, frankly, that the status quo is enough. We have to be open to more. We have to be open to a stronger Scotland in a changing UK. That's what we have to promote. But we do that by showing that we can deliver it. It's not just a case of the slogan. We can do that by showing that we can invest in communities and get results for them. So what can we do as a joint mission to drive down youth unemployment in Scotland? It's the highest in the UK. We know that people, if you don't actually deal with this issue by the age of 24, somebody most likely will never work in their life. We know the moral consequences of that for our citizens, and we know the economic consequences of it for the country. If we can pull together the UK and the Scottish Government to do that work, and I believe the Scottish Labour Party is the primary conduit that can make that happen. Because at the moment, the First Minister doesn't seem to be able to get it to happen himself. So I'm prepared to help. Okay, Michael from the Daily Mail.
Thanks very much. Just on a couple of issues, you say that you want the wealthiest and big corporations to pay more. Can you spell out a bit more about who are the wealthiest and who are big corporations that you want to pay more? And your proposals on a windfall tax on supermarkets have been quite heavily criticised. Half-baked nonsense was the way that the Scottish Retail Consortium described it. Could I ask where you stand on another big retail issue, on whether Scottish Labour under your leadership would support a food price cap?
Okay. There's a lot in there, Michael. Let me see what I can do with it. The wealthiest. So we know that the shape of our society is changing dramatically. I talked about demographic change in the speech. It's a massive challenge that we have that's putting additional pressure on our public services. By 2050, we know that we're going to need significantly more revenue in this country in order to pay for even vaguely comparable public services that deal with the social challenges that we have, that give people care in their old age, that allow us to give opportunities to young people and allow us to build a better economy. The challenge of that is significant. The Scottish Fiscal Commission have set out in stark terms what that picture looks like. Now, I believe that we have to make sure that we can have, yes, a conversation about how we change public services and provision, but we are going to need more resource. Anybody who thinks that we don't, frankly, is setting themselves up to a massive programme of cuts across Scotland over that period. So we have to find means of realising that resource. Now, in the last Parliament, I went to the Treasury and asked and argued, along with the Scottish Labour MPs, for that resource to come to Scotland, and we delivered additional billions of pounds for the Scottish budget as a result of that. So that's one means. But more broadly, we have to think about what our tax base is and where we get money from. So I'm open to conversations about replacements for council tax, whether it be different variations in that area. And I've already secured agreement in the Scottish Parliament for immediate talks in that area. I'm open to discussions about wealth taxes and what those might look like. None of this is easy. It's all really, really challenging. But we have to look in the long term to think about how we can do that. On your point around the retail tax that I've set out today and that we trailed over the weekend, it doesn't surprise me that big business thinks that they should keep the money that they got from the windfall from government policy. But I think it's better spent on dealing with what I think is a moral question about alcohol and drug abuse in our streets, the level of addiction. I mean, I think we all saw some of the coverage from the programme about Glasgow city centre just in the last couple of weeks, and how scared people are of some of the social consequences that are arising from that. I've seen it in Dundee, we see it right across Scotland. I think if this money can help, it's right that we actually take it and we actually spend it on things that can help people on the front line from some of the issues that are being caused by alcohol abuse in the first instance. So, Simeon. Oh, sorry, the food price cap. Yeah, sorry, that was a genuine mistake. On the food price cap, no, I'm not supportive of the food price cap. I think it's basically because it won't work. It's entirely clear that it won't work. I'm an economist by training, but I don't think you need a master's degree in economics to figure out what happens with this kind of policy. You can see it internationally where it actually restricts the availability of products. It increases prices on other products. It's not thought through, but then I don't think the SNP ever seriously thought it through. That wasn't the point of it. It was a means of of trying to create a controversy, which they were quite successful in terms of in the discussion and election campaign, rather than thinking about what it would actually mean for people. So I don't think it will work. I don't think the SNP think it will work. It's just a means of trying to have a conversation. So let's try to have a conversation about things that will work, that can make a difference to people. So thank you. And Simeon.
Thanks very much. Regarding clean energy, I just wondered if you could explain where you think there has been a lack of development in clean energy because of petty politics between London and Edinburgh. And maybe secondly, on that, you say you're willing to stand up for Scotland. So are you going to sort of challenge the Burnham government around transmission charging and challenge them about the decision not to allow Mingyang, the Chinese turbine manufacturer, to open its factory in the Highlands? Thanks.
Okay, so where have there been issues? There's certainly been issues in planning and provision. Let me give you one example of that, Simeon. So in the last term of Parliament, before the UK Labour government was elected, I found myself in a debate in Holyrood where there was around pylons in the northeast of Scotland, critical infrastructure to develop clean energy in this country. And it was about the delivery of a plan that had been agreed between the SNP and the Conservative governments. And the only person in the room who was actually arguing for that infrastructure was me. The SNP were disavowing it and the Tories were disavowing it because it was easy local populist politics. Getting that really difficult work done is absolutely critical if we're going to enable that industry. I've been speaking to a potential employer investment in the last couple of weeks on the East Coast. They desperately need a grid connection. That's one of the main things that's going to restrict whether they can deliver jobs or they can't. And it's about whether this infrastructure is put in place or isn't. Making those governments work together properly to make that happen is absolutely critical. On all occasions, if I believe that it's in Scotland's interest, I will go and I will speak to the UK government. I will work with Labour MP colleagues to make the cases I know they do every day in the interests of the communities that they represent. But we can do that both in private, and if it's necessary, we do it in public to have those conversations. On the specific issue of Minyang, I think that we also have to respect the fact that there are security concerns that have been expressed about the management of critical national infrastructure, that the government has taken a position on that on the best advice that they have. Frankly, I think it's irresponsible for the SNP to try and make a campaigning issue out of what is the core primary responsibility of any government, which is the protection of their people and the safety of their people. So that where there are legitimate concerns that can be raised at economic development planning, the way we deliver projects, absolutely, I'll always speak up for Scotland, and it's critical that any Scottish Labour leader does. Okay, I think that's us. Oh, sorry, Dan, apologies.
No worries. Thanks, Michael.
You weren't on my list, Dan, but anyway, you're on there.
I signed up late, to be fair, so it's probably my fault. Yeah, I was just going to ask, members in Edinburgh have raised serious concerns about the process that led to Irshad Ahmed being elected, well, winning the internal selection contest and then ultimately becoming an MSP. You know, they've said hundreds of inactive members were signed up. We understand the former leadership sort of coached him through vetting. And ultimately, it cost you Martin, who I see is here today from the group. So my question is, do you share the concerns that members in Edinburgh are raising about this? And if you do become leader, will you make sure there's a proper transparent investigation of what went on?
So I've seen the media reports on those concerns that have been raised by members. I don't want to comment on them in depth, Dan, because they include issues around party staff, and that's completely inappropriate for me to be talking about those things on a stage like this. So I'll set that part to the side at the moment. Clearly, if concerns have been raised by members, they have to be addressed by the party, looked in detail, and I'm sure there'll be a very thorough response that comes to that. Okay, I've not missed anybody else, have I? Okay. There's a man here. Yes. Yeah, one here.
So, my name is Alan. I'm standing here today because of my brother. So, good morning to everyone. And your company amplifies the labour purpose for our child. And it's just mentioned regarding the culture of cover-ups about the NHS. And then we're seeing that exactly systematic failure with cover-up rights here in Glasgow social work under the SNP's government. And yet, right here in Glasgow, 15 years old domestic abuse victim sought protection, a case where the criminal, my mom, was found guilty in the Glasgow Search Court just days ago. And then the Glasgow City Council social work systematically dismissed the child complaints and refused to examine the objective audio evidence and recognize their unacceptable action policy against this family and kinship care, which is me. And then while I'm deeply grateful to my MP, John Grady, and my previous MP, Martin Rose, and Dr. Zuber is here today and has been or used to actively support our casework. I'm sure that we are not the only victim in Scotland. As my friend who is a PhD has used to face this kind of systematic failure before. If you become a leader, how will you restore the credibility to this open system? And will you commit to establish and truly independent oversight from you, so that the local organization cannot no longer cover the child safeguarding failures?
Thanks for the question, Alan. I appreciate you raising the issue. I don't know the particulars of the case, but let me speak in slightly more general terms. I know that in this country, in Scotland, there is a culture of secrecy and cover-up around public service failures. I know that partly because we've heard from senior figures in the NHS just in recent days, the retiring head of the GP Association in Scotland telling us exactly that. But I also know it from my own experience from campaigning for the LGML inquiry, for the way that victims of a rogue surgeon were treated in NHS Tayside. And I think that we know it from the work at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital that our former leader, Anna Sarwar, did around Millie's Law. I'd say that in the last couple of days I was listening to a podcast of around Andy Burnham's response to Hillsborough and the underlying issue in that about the way that the state treats citizens and the way that people with great injustice can be ignored and when they are seeking to have their voices heard. and it's absolutely critical that happens. I think it's endemic in Scottish society at the moment, and it's a huge priority, I think, for our public institutions to do something about it. So thank you. Thank you all for coming today. It's hugely appreciated. Thank you.